it's not to discredit Brendan, like what he has is true and right, low back ability, but what I just want to provide is a gentler but an easier, an on-ramp for an entry point to that for people that just for some reason cannot get the back extension to work. Because that was me for months. I was trying to get it to work for months, opening my hip flexors. I was still hanging, doing the hangs whilst it wasn't working. I tried to make it work like desperately a lot, and it was just something about it just wasn't right. And then I had an intuition in one session to go do a some seated good mornings, just not as a replacement, but as something to help get into but I noticed a profound, like it was much better. The missing piece for me was the seated good morning, but it's not the seated good morning where you arch, it's the seated good morning where you sort of had this little slight round at the low back and you're trying to arch. It's a weird form, and but I explain it as best I can. Because the really arch version of the seated good morning like fucked my spine up so bad. And I didn't have any extra weight or anything. It was the only variable that changed was how I was manipulating the arches and the tilts in the certain areas. And then I figured out this sequence, which is hang, seated good morning with posterior pelvic tilt while still trying to arch the mid and upper back. Switches on all the joints, activates and primes, and then you get into the back extension. And that was my breakthrough. And that makes the back extension feel amazing. And then after that, you follow Brendan's progression exactly. Just enough to switch it on and get it all stabilized and primed, and then you get into the back extension and you're able to receive that angle a lot better. And so I discovered a breakthrough with that, and I must share it, so because there's surely some other people that are having issues troubleshooting that. And yeah, give it a try, commit to making it work. It's like I'm not trying to arch, well, I am, but at the low back I'm trying to sort of, you know how it's sort of like, you know how you chin tuck and it sort of elongates the spine. It's sort of the same thing when posteriorly tilting the low back. So you do that, but with the mid and upper you still want to look like arch back, but with the lower back it's an anterior tilt, a posterior tilt. And I just literally hold this. And body weight's sweet. If it's your first time, you're gonna get a great activation. And I just hold and just really try to feel along with. Sometimes I get a bit of neck engage, and you can hold a dumbbell, something just. And it just switches on everything that's along the spine. So I'll hang first. And so for me, the hanging does is it gets all the kinks out and sort of puts all the joints in place if you've been kind of sedentary and a bit crooked. So you get all the cracks out, you do some diaphragm breaths for a few minutes and a few sets of that, 45 seconds, and then come into this. For me, this is what it does. This is my perspective on it. And then with this sort of, once they're all in place, this sort of switches them all on and then primes it, and then you can get into the back extension. This was a huge breakthrough for me. You can hold here, nice activation. You can increase it slightly. I don't really go all the way down for this. You can get the trap 3 in, very nice. Putting your head on the pad. And then back extension. A form cue with the back extension for me, which I think is very helpful. With concentric, eccentric, like when you're doing the reps, you want to assist with the eccentrics, because the eccentrics are more damaging motions. You don't want that to tear you up as much, but you don't want to let go and then contract. You want to sort of like push slightly onto the concentric and then let go and let your spine sort of do the rigorous concentric to accumulate the pump. When you do that with each rep, so you assist down, slightly push, and then contract. And you do that in the range that feels right for you. It'll feel a bit off when you're starting to get out of range that you're not ready for. And the reason why you want to push onto the concentric is because when reversing the weight, when you do like drop catches, or like if you drop catching, that's sort of essentially you're reversing the direction of the weight, and that instantaneous change in direction is a lot more, there's weight behind it, so that requires a lot more attention, and it could be more damage. So I like to just assist through that part and kind of cheat it. You like when getting blood flow, you want to cheat the eccentric. It's so like counterculture, but it's true for rehab. You want to cheat the eccentric and just get a great concentric, deep, rigorous contraction. So I think that's about it. Any more points? No. So just recap, decompress, get all the kinks out, right? Get all those joints in the same, aligned properly. What I like to do whilst I'm hanging, I'll usually hang for sets of 45 seconds, 3 to 4 times, right? And whilst I'm hanging, what you want to do is deep diaphragm breaths, right? Like vacuum seal breaths, and then twist a bit, you know, kind of wiggle around, get all the kinks out. You want to hear those little pops all come out. You got all the kinks out, and all the joints would be better in place temporarily. And then with the seated good morning, you're getting all those joints activated and on the same page and firing. The form cues are posterior pelvic tilt with the low back, but with the mid and the upper back, you're arching. So that's how you sort of switch on the whole spine there. And sometimes I'll get a bit of neck activation, looking side to side or just holding aside. Not necessary. You know, you can do better neck rehab later, which I can't wait to give to you guys. Yeah, and then the back extension, and then you're on your way. So good luck. This was very helpful for me. If you can, try get a bench that has like a narrow, like how where it comes to the groin and meets at the joint. Like if it's narrower and sort of this, they sent me the wrong version and they were supposed to refund me and they didn't. So when you're starting to rehab an area, the muscle is going to be very not well conditioned. So any very light thing that you do, you can get a better activation and blood flow much easier. So capitalize on that as much as you can in the early stages, because as that muscle gets more conditioned, you're going to need to progress in some way, and that can be more difficult. You might have to buy something or get a weight that you can help, or just, you know what I mean? So from my perspective and experience, you have to finish with rounding the spine slightly, right? I'm just doing some extension on the back extension. For me, the times where I haven't rounded, because if you think about it, that flat back range, because if you think about it, on that back extension, that flat spine range is the muscular range, and you're leaning less on the ligaments. And for me, it's felt like when I haven't rounded, I haven't given the ligaments the stress that they needed, and it just continued to get worse. And so you got to get the short range either way from the seated good morning or the back extension, and you have to finish with some rounding. It can be very, very slight and it'll work. So as long as you can, instead of rounding from like the back extension, like just from the low back, you can like tilt sort of your whole spine forward and contract that way. And that's how I usually contract. And it's so strange. It's like as the rounding, where you contract from, you're getting a pump deeper from where you round from. And then you get a sick pump from there, and it's insane. It's like, oh, you have to feel it. It's insane. And strengthening the ligaments that hold your spine together. That is the core problem that chiropractors really don't address, because you get your adjustments, right? But what happens? You need to keep going back. And so when you strengthen the ligaments, I was seeing a chiropractor twice a week for how many? Like there was like 15, it was like 10 to 15 or 20 sessions I'd planned with her. And my neck was like, it felt like it was like this from my, I need to do a neck video as well. Holy fuck, that's amazing. Oh. Yeah, I've never had it that effective before. I have to get that to Brendan, so it's a better entry point. With the chiropractic comment I made, it's not to discredit chiropractors. Like, they do some amazing work, and I've seen some really deformed people go in there and turn out a lot better. But like, we have to be real with
the core, what's going on at the root, what that stimulus is actually doing and what it's not doing. And it's not strengthening any ligaments that hold the spine together. So, and there's a sequence to that. And you just bring a pump to the vascular tissue and you just lean on the ligaments. So